Before your favorite streaming series ever existed, television in the 1970s was absolutely destroying cars by the hundreds in the name of pure entertainment gold. While Hollywood was churning out epic car chase movies, TV producers were going completely insane with automotive mayhem right in your living room every week. Did you know some shows were obliterating more cars per episode than entire movie productions? Which legendary 70s series literally launched a car so high it needed a parachute to land safely? The Incredible Hulk, 1978-1982. Coming in at number 10, we have The Incredible Hulk. And yes, we know it technically started in 1977 and ran into the early 80s. But the real car-crushing carnage happened during those peak 1970s seasons when Bill Bixby's mild-mannered David Banner would transform into Lou Ferrigno's Green Giant of destruction. Now, you might be thinking, wait, the Hulk didn't drive cars, he destroyed them. And that's exactly the point. This show pioneered the art of automotive annihilation on television. Every episode featured Banner desperately trying to escape whatever small-town nightmare he'd stumbled into, usually involving him stealing or borrowing some poor soul's ride before things went sideways and Big Green decided to make his appearance. The stunt coordinators on this show had a field day. They weren't just flipping cars or jumping them over creeks. They were having the Hulk literally rip doors off hinges, flip entire vehicles upside down with his bare hands, and toss cars around like they were Hot Wheels toys. The production team went through an estimated 200 different vehicles during the show's run, and most of them met their doom at the hands of Lou Ferrigno in a green wig and body paint. What made this even more impressive was the practical effects work. Remember, this was before CGI could save the day. When you saw the Hulk flip a 1970s sedan, that was real metal being bent by real hydraulics and stunt teams working overtime. The show's prop department became masters at pre-weakening car frames, so Ferrigno could actually appear to have superhuman strength without breaking his back in the process. The iconic moment that still gives us chills, when Banner, driving a beat-up Chevy pickup, gets cornered by bad guys and you know what's coming next. The truck starts rocking, the music swells, and then boom! The Hulk bursts through the roof like a green torpedo, sending metal and glass flying everywhere. Pure 1970s television magic that modern shows with unlimited budgets still can't replicate. This show proved that you didn't need high-speed chases to create automotive entertainment gold. Sometimes you just needed a really angry green giant and a junkyard's worth of cars ready for the crusher. Chips. 1907-983. Revving up to number 9 is Chips, the California Highway Patrol series that turned Erik Estrada into a household name and made every kid in America want to be a motorcycle cop. While technically starting in '77 and running into the early '80s, those foundational 1970s episodes established the show's reputation for absolutely insane motorcycle stunts that would make modern safety coordinators faint. Erik Estrada's officer, Frank Poncherello, and Larry Wilcox's John Baker weren't just cruising around Los Angeles on their Kawasaki 1000 police bikes. They were launching those machines through the air like rocket ships. The show averaged one major motorcycle crash per episode, and we're not talking about gentle tip-overs in the parking lot. These were full speed, flying through the air, sliding across concrete, spectacular wipeouts that somehow always ended with both officers dusting themselves off and grinning at the camera. The stunt work on Chips was legendary for its authenticity. Real highway patrol officers served as consultants and stunt doubles, bringing genuine riding skills to the most outrageous scenarios television had ever dreamed up. One of the most talked about stunts involved a motorcycle jump over a moving semi-truck during a freeway chase scene. The stunt rider had exactly 4.2 seconds to hit the ramp at precisely 65 miles per hour, clear the truck's trailer, and stick the landing without becoming highway pavement pizza. But here's where it gets really wild. Estrada actually performed many of his own stunts during the early seasons, despite having zero prior motorcycle experience when he was cast. The production team basically threw him on a Kawasaki and said, "Figure it out, pretty boy." His learning curve resulted in some of the most genuine-looking near-death experiences ever captured on film. During one particularly ambitious stunt, Estrada miscalculated a jump and crashed so spectacularly that he spent 3 days in the hospital with a separated shoulder and bruised ego. The show went through an estimated 300 motorcycles during its run, with most meeting their doom in increasingly creative ways. Bikes would explode after hitting cars, launch riders into swimming pools, and somehow always land in the most photogenic positions possible. The series turned motorcycle crashes into an art form, proving that 2 wheels and a badge could create television gold that 4 wheels simply couldn't match. Ships didn't just entertain, it created a generation of wannabe motorcycle cops who spent their childhoods jumping bikes over trash cans in suburban driveways. The Rockford Files, 1974-1980. Sliding into number 8 is The Rockford Files, starring James Garner as private investigator Jim Rockford, whose beat-up gold Pontiac Firebird Esprit became almost as famous as Garner himself. This wasn't your typical flashy TV car, it was a working man's muscle car that looked like it had been through a few too many repo lots, which was perfect for Rockford's down-on-his-luck character. What made the Rockford Files absolutely revolutionary was James Garner's insistence on performing his own driving stunts. This wasn't some pretty boy actor pretending to be tough. Garner had serious racing credentials, having competed in the Baja 1000 and other professional racing events. When you watched Rockford execute that famous J-turn, spinning the car 180 degrees while in reverse, that was actually James Garner behind the wheel, not some stunt double earning Hazard pay. The signature Rockford maneuver, that lightning-fast reverse spin that became known as the Rockford turn, was performed in nearly every episode and became so iconic that driving instructors still reference it today. Garner could whip that Firebird around faster than most people could parallel park, making it look effortless, while most viewers were gripping their couch cushions in terror. The stunt required perfect timing, precise throttle control, and brass balls the size of bowling balls. But here's what separates the Rockford Files from other shows. The chase scenes felt real because they were happening on actual Los Angeles streets with real traffic. No closed sets, no green screens, just Garner threading that Pontiac through rush hour traffic while being pursued by bad guys in everything from Cadillacs to pickup trucks. The show's budget couldn't afford elaborate crash sequences, so they relied on pure driving skill and Garner's natural charisma to sell the action. One legendary episode featured Rockford being chased through a construction zone where the Firebird had to navigate between concrete barriers, over unfinished road surfaces, and around actual construction equipment. The sequence was shot in one take with Garner doing all the driving, proving that sometimes the best stunts are the ones that don't look like stunts at all. The production went through 7 different Firebirds during the show's run, though unlike other series that destroyed cars for spectacle, most of Rockford's rides died slow deaths from the constant abuse of high-speed chases and aggressive driving. These weren't explosion-filled Michael Bay moments. They were realistic automotive wear and tear from a hardworking detective's daily grind. Garner turned that humble Firebird into a character all its own, proving that you didn't need exotic supercars to create automotive television gold. Emergency, 1972-1979. Racing into number 7 is Emergency, the medical drama that made paramedics cool and turned fire trucks into the real stars of the show. While the series focused on the life-saving work of Station 51's rescue squad, the real action happened when those red fire engines came screaming around Los Angeles corners at speeds that would make Formula One drivers nervous. Emergency featured some of the most authentic emergency vehicle driving ever captured on television. The show used real Los Angeles County Fire Department equipment, real paramedics as consultants, and real firefighters as stunt drivers. When you watched Squad 51's Dodge van or Engine 51's massive fire truck barrel through traffic, those weren't actors pretending to be first responders. Those were actual firefighters who knew how to handle several tons of emergency equipment at high speed. The driving sequences in Emergency were particularly impressive because they had to balance realism with television drama. Real paramedics don't drive like maniacs. They drive fast but smart, getting to emergencies quickly while keeping their equipment and themselves intact. The show's stunt coordinators worked closely with fire department veterans to choreograph chase scenes that looked exciting but remained true to actual emergency response procedures. One of the most memorable sequences involved Engine 51 responding to a multi-car freeway accident during rush hour. The massive fire truck had to weave through stopped traffic, navigate around overturned vehicles, vehicles and maintain speed while carrying thousands of gallons of water and heavy rescue equipment. The stunt required precision timing, as real cars driven by stunt professionals had to clear out of the truck's path at exactly the right moments to avoid genuine accidents. But here's what made Emergency truly special. The crashes and accidents they were responding to were often more spectacular than the emergency vehicles themselves. The show's prop department became masters of automotive destruction, creating realistic accident scenes that required multiple cars, elaborate crash choreography, and pyrotechnics that would make action movie directors jealous. These weren't simple fender benders. They were twisted metal nightmares that showcased just how dangerous 1970s highways could be. The series went through dozens of fire trucks and ambulances, though most of the damage came from the demanding shooting schedule rather than spectacular crashes. Constant high-speed driving, quick starts and stops, and the weight of all that emergency equipment took a serious toll on the vehicles. Emergency proved that heroes didn't always drive muscle cars. Sometimes they drove fire engine red trucks that could save lives and look cool doing it. Kojak. Who Loves Ya Baby? Kojak rolls into number 6, with Telly Savalas as the lollipop-sucking, bald-headed NYPD detective who turned a brown 1973 Buick Century into an unlikely pursuit vehicle. While most TV cops were driving flashy muscle cars, Kojak's ride looked like something your uncle would drive to his insurance job, which was exactly the point. What made Kojak's car chase sequences absolutely brilliant was their gritty New York City authenticity. This wasn't California highway cruising or rural county road racing. This was urban warfare on the mean streets of Manhattan, complete with taxicabs, delivery trucks, and genuinely angry New York drivers who had no idea they were participating in a television show. The stunt coordinators on Kojak faced unique challenges that other shows didn't have to deal with. New York City streets are narrow, crowded, and filled with obstacles that would make most stunt drivers break out in cold sweats. Fire hydrants, parked cars, street vendors, and construction zones turned every chase scene into a navigation nightmare that required split-second timing and nerves of steel. Telly Savalas, despite being in his 50s during the show's run, insisted on doing many of his own driving stunts. The man had the reflexes of a fighter pilot and the attitude of someone who'd grown up on New York's toughest streets. When Kojak whipped that Buick around a corner with two wheels barely touching the pavement, that was often Savalas himself behind the wheel, proving that bald guys could be badass long before Vin Diesel made it cool. One legendary sequence involved Kojak pursuing a suspect through the narrow streets of Little Italy during a festival, with hundreds of extras, vendor stalls, and actual pedestrians creating chaos that couldn't be replicated on a closed set. The Buick had to navigate between food stands, around double-parked cars, and through crowds of people while maintaining pursuit speed. It was like threading a needle while riding a roller coaster. The show burned through multiple Buick Centuries, though they died more from the punishment of constant city driving than spectacular crashes. Stop-and-go traffic, parallel parking at high speed, and the general abuse of urban police work took their toll on the vehicles. Kojak proved that you didn't need a supercar to create compelling automotive television. Sometimes all you needed was a determined detective, a reliable sedan, and the concrete jungle of New York City. Hawaii Five-0, 1968-1980. Book 'em, Dano. Hawaii Five-0 cruises into number 5, bringing tropical car chase paradise to living rooms across America. Jack Lord's Steve McGarrett and his team turned the Hawaiian Islands into their personal automotive playground, with car chases that featured everything from pristine beaches to volcanic mountain roads that would make rally drivers weep with joy. What made Hawaii Five-0's car stunts absolutely spectacular was the setting. While other shows were stuck with urban streets or rural highways, Five-0 had the entire paradise of Hawaii as their backdrop. Car chases wound through sugarcane fields, along cliffside coastal roads, and through dense tropical forests that looked like something out of a travel brochure, if travel brochures featured high-speed pursuit vehicles and gunfights. The show's signature vehicle was McGarrett's 1974 Mercury Marquis, a massive land yacht that looked completely out of place on Hawaii's narrow, winding roads, but somehow always managed to keep up with whatever exotic sports car the bad guys were driving. The Marquis became as much a character as McGarrett himself, proving that American muscle could handle anything the Pacific Paradise could throw at it. Jack Lord was notorious for his attention to detail and insistence on authentic action sequences. The man treated every car chase like it was a military operation, personally supervising stunt work and often climbing behind the wheel himself for less dangerous sequences. Lord's perfectionism resulted in some of the most visually stunning chase scenes in television history, with camera work that captured both the automotive action and Hawaii's breathtaking scenery. One unforgettable sequence featured a pursuit that started in downtown Honolulu and ended on a remote beach on the north shore of Oahu. The chase covered over 30 miles of Hawaiian terrain, including city streets, mountain highways, and beach access roads that weren't designed for high-speed pursuits. The logistics of coordinating such an extensive chase sequence with multiple camera crews, safety teams, and local authorities was like planning a small military invasion. The series went through dozens of cars during its 12-year run, with many meeting spectacular ends by driving off volcanic cliffs, exploding in sugarcane fields, or simply getting battered to death on roads that were never designed for mainland-style muscle cars. The tropical climate also took its toll, with salt air and humidity causing cars to deteriorate faster than they would on the mainland. Hawaii Five-0 proved that paradise could be dangerous, especially if you were a criminal trying to outrun Steve McGarrett in his Mercury Marquis. Adam 12, 1968, 1975. 10-4, rolling into number 4 is Adam 12, the police procedural that turned a simple black-and-white 1967 Plymouth Belvedere patrol car into the most recognizable cop car in television history. Officers Pete Malloy and Jim Reed, played by Martin Milner and Kent McCord, proved that you didn't need exotic vehicles to create heart-stopping automotive action. Sometimes all you needed was good police training and a reliable cruiser. What set Adam 12 apart from other shows was its commitment to authentic police procedures. Series creator Jack Webb worked closely with the Los Angeles Police Department to ensure that everything from pursuit tactics to radio protocols was absolutely accurate. When you watched Malloy and Reed chase down suspects, you were seeing real police driving techniques performed by actors who had been trained by actual LAPD officers. The Plymouth Belvedere used in Adam 12 was deliberately chosen for its reliability and handling characteristics rather than its flash factor. With a 318 cubic inch V8 engine and police package suspension, the Belvedere could maintain pursuit speeds while carrying all the radio equipment, emergency gear, and weaponry that real patrol officers needed. It wasn't the fastest car on the road, but it was built to handle the daily punishment of police work. The most impressive aspect of Adam 12's car sequences was their realism. These weren't Hollywood fantasy chases with cars flying through the air and exploding on impact. These were authentic police pursuits that showed how real cops actually caught bad guys. The show demonstrated proper pursuit techniques, safety protocols, and the kind of driving skills that separated professional officers from weekend warriors. One particularly memorable episode featured Adam 12 pursuing a stolen vehicle through rush-hour traffic on the 405 freeway. The sequence showcased real police driving skills, as Malloy and Reed had to maintain visual contact with the suspect while navigating through actual Los Angeles traffic at high speed. The scene required coordination between multiple patrol cars, motorcycle units, and helicopter support, just like real police operations. The series used multiple Plymouth Belvederes throughout its run, with cars being rotated in and out of service as they accumulated mileage and wear from the demanding shooting schedule. Unlike other shows that destroyed vehicles for dramatic effect, Adam 12 treated their patrol cars like the valuable equipment they represented, maintaining them properly and using them until they were no longer roadworthy. Adam 12 proved that authentic police work could be just as exciting as fantasy action sequences, setting the standard for realistic law enforcement television that continues to influence cop shows today. Starsky and Hutch, 1975-1979. Do it! Starsky and Hutch screeches into the number 3 spot with that iconic red and white striped 1976 Ford Gran Torino that became more famous than its human co-stars. David Soul and Paul Michael Glazer's undercover detectives turned that muscle car into a 4-wheeled crime-fighting machine that could outrun bad guys, look cool doing it, and somehow always find a parking spot in downtown Los Angeles. The Gran Torino, nicknamed the Striped Tomato by the crew, was specifically chosen for its intimidation factor and performance capabilities. With a 460 cubic inch V8 engine producing over 400 horsepower, this wasn't some wimpy economy car pretending to be tough. When Starsky floored it and those rear tires started smoking, you knew somebody was about to have a very bad day. What made the Starsky and Hutch chase sequences legendary was their urban authenticity combined with Hollywood spectacle. The show filmed real pursuit scenes on actual Los Angeles streets, with the Gran Torino threading through traffic, launching over hills, and performing tire-smoking turns that would make Formula One drivers nervous. Paul Michael Glazer, despite having limited driving experience before the show, became genuinely skilled at high-performance driving and performed many of his own automotive stunts. The most talked-about stunt in the series involved the Gran Torino, jumping over a moving bus during a downtown chase sequence. The stunt required precise timing, with the car hitting a concealed ramp at exactly 45 miles per hour to clear the bus and land safely on the other side. The sequence was filmed in one take because the production budget couldn't afford multiple attempts, and failure would have meant disaster for both the car and the stunt driver. Ford Motor Company provided multiple Gran Torinos for the production, but the cars took such a beating that most were retired after just a few episodes. The constant high-speed driving, hard braking, and aggressive cornering destroyed transmissions, brake systems, and suspension components faster than the production team could repair them. By the end of the series, the show had gone through more than a dozen identical Gran Torinos. But here's the kicker. Despite being portrayed as a high-performance street machine, the actual Gran Torino was somewhat of a disappointment in real life. The mid-1970s emissions regulations had neutered most muscle cars, and the Starsky and Hutch car was more bark than bite. The production team had to use camera angles, sound effects, and pure Hollywood magic to make that striped Torino look faster than it actually was. Starsky and Hutch proved that with the right marketing, even a mediocre muscle car could become a television icon. The Dukes of Hazzard, 1979-1987. Yeehaw! The Dukes of Hazzard jumps into the number 2 position, and let's be honest, this show didn't just feature car stunts, it was car stunts, with some dialogue thrown in between the automotive carnage. The General Lee, that bright orange 1969 Dodge Charger with the Confederate flag on its roof, became the most recognizable car in television history by launching itself over every creek, ravine, and obstacle in fictional Hazzard County, Georgia. What made the Dukes of Hazzard absolutely insane was its complete disregard for automotive preservation. The production team went through an estimated 300 different 1969 Dodge Chargers during the show's run, turning classic muscle cars into disposable props for increasingly outrageous stunts. Every episode featured the General Lee flying through the air like a 3,400-pound orange missile, often traveling distances that would make NASA engineers start taking notes. The signature Duke Boys maneuver, sliding across the General Lee's hood and diving through the windows, became so iconic that Tom Wopat and John Schneider could perform it in their sleep. But the real star was the car itself, powered by a variety of engines ranging from 318 small blocks to 440 big blocks, depending on what the stunt required and what the prop department could find in local junkyards. The most legendary stunt in the series involved the General Lee jumping over a moving train, not a stationary prop, but an actual moving locomotive. The stunt required the Charger to hit a ramp at precisely 65 miles per hour to clear the train cars and land safely on the other side. The margin for error was essentially zero, and the stunt driver had exactly one chance to get it right. The sequence used 3 different camera crews and took 6 months of planning to execute safely. But here's what made the show truly remarkable from a stunt perspective. Most of the jumps were performed without computer enhancement or special effects. When you saw the General Lee soaring through the Georgia countryside, that was real automotive physics in action. The production team became masters of concealed ramps, calculating launch angles, and finding cars that could survive impacts that would turn normal vehicles into scrap metal. The show's appetite for Chargers became so voracious that by the final seasons, the prop department was using cars that barely resembled the original General Lee. Different years, different colors painted orange, and even some cars that weren't Chargers at all, just vehicles that looked close enough for television audiences who were primarily focused on the flying car rather than its authenticity. The Dukes of Hazzard proved that sometimes the best television comes from taking automotive stunts to absolutely ridiculous extremes and never apologizing for the carnage. The $6 Million Man, 1974-1978. We have the technology. The $6 Million Man crashes into the #1 spot, and while Steve Austin's bionic powers got most of the attention, the show's automotive stunts were equally superhuman. Lee Major's Colonel, Steve Austin, proved that when you have the strength of a bulldozer and the speed of a cheetah, regular cars become just another tool in your bionic arsenal. What made the $6 Million Man absolutely revolutionary was its combination of superhuman abilities with real automotive mayhem. When Steve Austin needed to stop a runaway vehicle, he didn't just chase it down. He'd leap onto its roof from a moving helicopter, rip off doors with his bare hands, or literally grab a speeding car's bumper and bring it to a dead stop through sheer bionic strength. The show's stunt coordinators had to figure out how to make these impossible scenarios look believable using 1970s practical effects. The series featured some of the most creative automotive destruction ever filmed. One legendary sequence had Steve Austin pursuing enemy agents who were escaping in a heavily modified van. Unable to catch them conventionally, Austin grabbed a motorcycle and used his bionic legs to launch both himself and the bike over the van, landing on the roof and punching through the metal with his bionic arm. The stunt required perfect timing between 3 different stunt performers and resulted in one of the most talked about action sequences in television history. But the real genius of the $6 Million Man was how it used cars as props in Steve Austin's superhuman world. Normal vehicles became stepping stones, weapons, and obstacles to be overcome rather than just transportation. The show went through hundreds of cars, motorcycles, trucks, and even aircraft during its run, with most meeting spectacular ends that would make Michael Bay jealous. The production team pioneered several stunt techniques that are still used today, including using hydraulic rams to simulate superhuman strength and developing new camera techniques to capture high-speed bionic action. When Steve Austin used his bionic legs to outrun a speeding car, the filming required multiple cameras, precise timing, and stunts that pushed both technology and human performers to their limits. One unforgettable episode featured Steve Austin literally stopping a runaway bus by standing in front of it and catching it with his bionic arms. The stunt required a specially modified bus, computer-controlled braking systems, and a stunt performer with absolute confidence in 1970s special effects technology. The $6 Million Man proved that with enough creativity, bionic powers, and automotive carnage, television could create action sequences that were better, stronger, and faster than anything cinema had to offer. There you have it, the wildest automotive carnage that 1970s television had to offer when shows destroyed more cars in a single season than most modern productions use in their entire runs. These weren't just TV shows, they were automotive gladiator matches broadcast directly into American living rooms every week. Which of these car-crushing classics did we get right? Did we miss your favorite automotive disaster? Drop a comment, smash that like button, and let us know which 70s show created the most spectacular automotive mayhem in television history.